According to the stimulus, A Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela, who was a famous civil rights activist, quote, "The challenge for every prisoner, particularly every political prisoner, is how to survive prison intact, how to emerge from prison undiminished, how to conserve and even replenish one's beliefs." This quote accurately depicts how the people in Venezuela live. They live after they were in a prison trying to figure out how to live a day-to-day life with the thought of how they will survive and not lose oneself. Venezuela over the years has been known as a poor country with many issues in the way the government is run. Venezuela was once known as a country with huge promise and one of the world's biggest oil producers, as well as a very urban country with a wonderful economy. But all of this started to change when most of the issues in the country started off in 1998 when Hugo Chavez was elected president and started to implicate the ways of the left and center-left. According to a quote from an article by Zhang Zhongmu and Guan Wenhu, the issues that the economy in Venezuela was facing came from, quote, "the government's income-seeking behaviors, which result from a dysfunction in the mechanism," unquote. This all occurred due to the way former President Hugo Chavez ran his government and his successor Nicolás Maduro. The way that Hugo Chavez and his successor Nicolás Maduro have ran the country has led to many changes in the country, such as social changes and economic changes. Economic changes are one of the biggest reasons the country is in the situation is in. Good morning, my name is Mauricio Movilla. My presentation is on economic effects from Venezuela's government rule. This all leads to the question, how has Venezuela's government rule changed the country's economy since the 2000s? My argument is that due to the government rule, one of Venezuela's most prominent industries has taken a huge hit, being the oil industry. Not only has the oil industry been affected by the government, but the negative economic effects have also affected their healthcare systems and their overall lifestyle. This leads me to my first perspective of how the country's dependency on oil has led to the economic situation worsening. The quote on the board, which is taken from an article by Zhang Zhongmu and Guan Wenhu, indicates the dependency on oil / any product a country could be profiting off of could be very risky and dangerous to a country's economy, since if the product / stock prices, which in this case is oil, drops, the economy could crash and prices could skyrocket all around the country, which could lead to unlivable living conditions, such as making it extremely hard for food, medication, clothes, and other necessities to be found, which has been the exact case in a country such as Venezuela. As shown by these graphs from an article called Venezuela's Growth Experience by Omar D. Bello, Juan S. Blay, and Diego Restucia, as the oil prices rose, the oil production and labor went down. This will lead to less job opportunities in the field since there is not as much demand for the product. Hence why the prices started to rise. Since there is not as many jobs, this could lead to social life and way of life being affected. Since there's not many jobs in the field and the prices are high, the wages could be low, and work environment could also be seen as unsafe, which therefore could lead to several casualties or just people living to work in other places, which could lead to the oil labor decreasing. And since the oil is one of the main sources of income, the economy as a whole would take a huge hit. Which then leads me to my second perspective on how those healthcare systems have also been affected. The quote of the board, taken from an article by Lizzie Wade, indicates that due to Venezuela's economic struggle, what used to be a really prominent healthcare system has now led to being one of the worst due to lack of resources. This lack of resources is also one of the main reasons that good and highly qualified personnel tend to leave the country for better opportunities, which honestly makes sense since they can be provided of basic supplies such as gloves, as shown in the quote. This quote. This leads me to my last perspective on day-to-day life. As shown on the board, the quote indicates how public safety has changed and how as time has passed, the day-to-day life has become less safe by the day. It also indicates how the government has played a major role in that, saying how in 2016, state security forces killed 4,667 people in instances of so-called resistance to authority. In 2018, the government reported 5,287 of these cases. Annual reports from Progress showed a similar rise in violations to the right of life by state security forces, increasing from 270 cases in 2015 to 663 in 2018. Seeing how Venezuela's oil industry, healthcare systems, and day-to-day life have been affected has led me to conclude the economy of Venezuela has taken a huge hit due to the way the government has run. This huge hit has led to Venezuelans immigrating to different countries to look for better opportunities and basically not changing the situation, only worsening the situation. Thank you.
These are all resources.
All right, 2 questions for you. How did your research question evolve as you worked through the process?
As I worked through the process, I started off with only trying to research Latin America in general, how the governments in Latin America affected their economy. But then, as my peers said that I should narrow it down and go to more specific countries, so I ended up choosing a country like Venezuela since I have a more personal connection since that's where I'm from.
Okay. And explain the level of certainty you are of your conclusion.
I'm very certain with my conclusion since that's what my evidence led me to realize, and since I found most of my evidence on very well reputed sources such as the EBSCO sources and the college lists.